I would like to strongly commend His Excellency President William Ruto and his administration for the decisive and timely action to allocate 100 million towards tackling the worrying cases of gender-based violence and femicide. Whereas the allocation of resources is welcome, I'm concerned on the approach adopted to expend these resources. I vehemently resent the popular strategy where leaders and organizations choose the conventional method of mounting tents and mobilizing a group of individuals randomly and offering them a small token or fee in exchange for a conversation. In 2025, as we strive to institute positive change, I adamantly recommend creative and priority-based approach. For instance, the 3-point approach. 1, a considerable sum of resources be allocated to reviving the efficiency of the gender desks in all wards with professionally trained and certified personnel to assist victims with fast response procedures, reporting mechanisms, evidence collection and preservation, investigation, and arrest of the perpetrators. This is also an opportunity to operationalize the Victim Protection Board as a collaborator. 2, substantial resources be earmarked for enhancing the already existing sexual gender-based violence courts, the SGBV courts, to expeditiously and effectively handle GBV cases to conclusion. 3, as legislators, because we are legislators, legislation of gender courts such that we pass the laws that cap all GBV cases to 6 months in court. As one of the drafters of the Kenya Kwanza Women Charter, I persistently continue to encourage all Kenya Kwanza leaders, particularly the women, to keep the focus and not to digress, such that we are able to deliver what we promised the phenomenal women of Kenya. As you are aware, and you will see, there was a Gazette notice on a task force for the implementation of a program to curb gender-based violence. And there is a memo that came from the Ministry of Gender to both the National Assembly and the Senate. And in that memo, there is a proposal of how this 100 million that has been allocated to GBV should be spent. And if you go through that, it gives a proposed breakdown of the budget where we'll be targeting programs through the women leaders. And the proposed breakdown is all about having tents and chairs and having a conversation with the people on constituency level, which is not a bad thing. I just think that we would have a more effective approach if we deal with the pressing issues as at now, which is ensuring that the perpetrators of GBV are actually brought to book, and that has to be done through the GBV courts and also through the gender desks. So if you look at the proposal, it is more of advocacy through the leaders. I am one of the leaders who should also be carrying out this advocacy, but I feel at this moment what we need is to target, first of all, the gender courts and the gender desks, and as legislators, if we can be able to pass a law where we don't end up having cases in court for years and years. You know, the same way we have the small claims courts, we can actually cap that the timing of any case that we have under GBV takes up to 6 months. And this can be done with the help of the Victim Protection Board, with the help of the GBV courts. This is a conversation that I have had with the CJ, and I feel that at this moment, the intent of this 100 million should be placed more on these particular issues, other than going down to the grassroots and convening individuals randomly to tell them to stop participating in this GBV. Thank you. Any questions?
This money you're talking about, how many women leaders are sharing it out? How much is each getting? And have you also gotten your share back?
The current proposal, as per the memo that was sent out, is that we have 102 members of parliament. That is 47 women representatives, 28 single constituency members of parliament who are women, There are 6 nominated members of the National Assembly, and then there are 3 elected senators and 18 nominated senators, which brings it to 102. So 102, the proposal is that 102 constituencies are targeted for advocacy, which I believe is a good start, but I think at this point, this 100 million would be better spent making the gender desk more efficient and making the gender courts more efficient. And in terms of legislators, because we are legislators, what we should be doing, particularly in this coming session, is ensuring that we pass a law that we cap all cases of GBV to just last a possible maximum of 6 months. I feel this is where we should put the intent. So based on the proposal, that is how the money is supposed to be spent out. I totally, first of all, disagree with this approach. That's what I'm trying to say. And hence, I am not actively in the conversation. However, I don't think it's a bad approach. I think it is an approach that we could have done after we dealt with the gender desks and the courts and the gender courts. Yeah. Because advocacy is important. But at the moment, if we cannot have perpetrators brought to book, if we cannot have convictions, for instance, because it's been very difficult to have convictions, because we have an issue of the chain of, when you're having the investigations, there's an issue of even evidence collection, particularly on matters of sexual harassment and things like that. So these are the issues we should, because if you have more people who are being convicted, then naturally there will be a behavioral change, because society will understand if you do this, then you are going to be arrested, then within 6 months you are going to be in prison. So, and if we focused on that first, then we can come later to talk about the advocacy and now having those conversations, you know, because right now there's a lot of intimate partner violence and all that. I'm not saying it's not a priority. I'm saying the first priority should be the gender desks and the courts. According to the proposal, which I think I have shared with you, according to the proposal, there is a memo here proposing on how this 100 million should be spent. There is no allocation of this money going to gender desks or the courts. And we even have a victim protection board, which I feel should be resourced. So what I'm saying is we welcome the 100 million. In fact, we need more. We need more money towards fighting GBV and femicide. But we also need to be careful on how we are spending this money, because putting together 1,000 people in a constituency and saying stop beating each other is a good thing, but it doesn't mean that is what will stop the GBV. What will stop the GBV is if we have perpetrators. We have recently seen a video of a woman literally attempting to murder their partner on the CCTV with a knife, yeah? When you have incidences like that, and those incidences are taken to court, and those perpetrators, whether they are men or women, are actually arrested and go through the process, and within 6 months, they are brought to book, then you will have less and less incidences, because people will understand that you are going to be arrested and the law will take its. But for now, you have this kind of issues and no convictions, no arrests, nothing. So even if we go as leaders with this 100 million to talk to people, what is going to stop them from repeatedly, participating in this GBV?
Now, what is your take on the technical working group, the second, especially the leadership? Now that we have the former DCD who was accused of GBV heading this technical team, what's your take on it as a leader?
Definitely, on a very sensitive matter like this one, you need a working group, because there's a lot of, it's a logistical nightmare. Even if we say we are getting more than 100 million, the first question, as you have asked, is how is this money going to be sent or spent, and who is going to do the monitoring and evaluation, who is going to play the oversight. I come from the opinion that as legislators, our work is oversight. We are not project managers. We should not be managing projects and going to spend money. We should be playing oversight on possibly the technical working group and those who are implementing on these things. So I support a technical working group because it is necessary.
You support leadership, like having nothing but
I support a technical working group because it is necessary. Yeah, it's necessary to have a technical working group.
You've not answered my question. Nancy Badano was accused of gender-based violence back. She's heading this technical team. Do you support that?
What I'm going to say is, as leaders and as human beings, all of us have our shortfalls. And there's even a reason why we send people to prison, so that they can have second chances. And there's a reason why we are always preaching and saying that, you know, after Langata Women's and after all that, people should be accorded a second chance, depending on what is at hand. So I would say, for me, I support a technical working group, and I really do feel that the issue here is that this 100 million should not be spent just on having conversations with people on the grassroots. We should prioritize our gender desks in the police stations. I have always said that this gender desk should move to the medical facilities, because the first point of response as a victim of gender-based violence is that you go to hospital. And that is where you have the evidence collected. That is where you can have your OB written. That is where everything can be dealt with. So I think if we put emphasis on the gender desk so that it's more efficient, and emphasis on the gender courts, then we'll be able to tackle at least, I would say, 50% of the issue. And I think that the people that have been mentioned in this technical working group are very competent. And I think that given the right direction, that they'll be able to deliver what we need to deliver.
Yeah, the 100 million was given by the president. Now, and you say it's not enough. Do you think that as legislators, maybe you craft a way that that money should be allocated in the budget annually, other than waiting for the president to give you a token?
Absolutely. In fact, that is one of the reasons why I'm saying the 100 million is it's a positive step going forward. And I commend His Excellency President William Ruto, because he is actually delivering to the Kenya Kwanza Women Charter, which he promised and signed to the women of Kenya. However, I would say that we need a more sustainable approach. And I actually think this is a missed opportunity by the Ministry of Gender, because the money is being disbursed to leaders as if it is a form of NGCDF or a form of CDF. Yet this is a very special case of resource that needs to be targeted. We have within our current laws, we have many laws and we have many policies. We have the Sexual Offense Act that captures, you know, on the sexual offenses and how to approach it from a legislative perspective. We have the Penal Code. We have the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act 2015. And even the ministry has a national policy on how to deal with gender-based violence, and particularly femicide. So I think the ministry has missed an opportunity to actually be the lead, to take the lead on this 100 million and make it a permanent resource that we can even go and fundraise from outsiders, from the international community in terms of donor funding, so that this is not a one-off. Because as you have said, once we go talk to the people once a day, it is not like GBV happens once a year. But the way we are approaching it is we are going to talk to them in one day, one sitting, put a tent, chairs, you know, and then that's it. So I feel like this is a missed opportunity for the Ministry of Gender, and perhaps maybe because we don't have a minister, but I feel this is a missed opportunity for the Ministry of Gender.